Hi, this is the welcome to the live. My name's Lottie, and I am going to be talking to you about conflict and communication tonight. Before we do that, I want to talk to you briefly about who I am. If you've met me before, that's great. If not, then let me give you a sort of an overview. I'm Lottie Passell-Syms, and I am a relationship and couples specialist. So I've been working with couples and individuals for 23 years, 24 years, and absolutely love what I do. And the lives come about because we were talking about how we can get more information out there for other couple therapists or people who want to be couple therapists. So my background is I'm a hypnotherapist and an EMDR specialist and also a CBT practitioner. So all of that combined, I share that with my clients to help them navigate their relationships and give them the opportunity to see things a little bit differently. I'm a clinical supervisor, and I also run workshops and run the membership for the drop-in supervision as well. So lots of different things. So check out my website, lottiepassellsyms.com, and see what's going on, and add yourself to the newsletter as well, which gives you insights of what's been going on, but things that are actually being offered in the future. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping, if that's okay. I want you to make sure that you keep yourself safe, and that within talking about couple work or individual work, we can be triggered, whether it's talking about anger or rage or anything like that, we can be triggered by talking about it. It takes us back to a time when that was happening to us. So keep yourself safe on this live. I want everybody to be muted, okay, and put your hand up if you want to say something. That's absolutely fine. And if for any reason that you dip out, I can always bring you back in. That's not a problem. But also remember that anything said on here, it goes on the Facebook page, this whole live, so people can watch it back. And a lot of people do that. And I'm very grateful to people that have signed up to the Facebook page because I get so much feedback from it. All the things we've done, people come up and say the limerence or the this or that we've done in the past. They say it's absolutely made a difference, made me think about my relationship differently, or my relationship to myself. Now, I've been thinking about conflict and communication, but I wanted to do it a little bit differently tonight. Instead of just talking about what conflict is or what communication is and how we can make it better, I want to add differentiation to it. So I'm hoping that this will be quite informative. I am going to read some of it off because I've written quite a lot of about it today. So I'm going to read off of it. But there's a great process that I do within therapy about being the I of you, I choosing to be a we. And I'm a massive advocate of that actually we need to see who we are first and then how we're acting out within the relationship. So I'm going to read you some of the stuff here. So we're going to be doing conflict and anger. So anger is normal. They call it benign. Anger is a necessary action for ourselves and for our relationship to power forward, to hold boundaries and hold a sense of self while being with another. So if you think about the family of origin, if you weren't allowed to have a voice or shout or say what you want to say, or you did say what you wanted to say, but you weren't heard, then there would be a within that process being able to stand up for yourself, have a voice within the relationship, and that would be sad because there would be a power dynamic working there. Okay, so what we'd be looking at is being able to, in therapy, bring the one that's not speaking too much a little bit forward and ask the other one to just hold that space for a minute while the other person speaks. So for couples to maintain their relationship, so it doesn't deteriorate, it is important that they take stock of what the responsibilities they are having within the relationship. So I'm a great believer in MOTs. So we need to communicate within a relationship what's working. And one of the things I say to my guys is this what you thought this relationship would look like? Is there anything you'd like more of? Is there anything you'd like to change? So this gives way to really soft setups instead of these harsh arguing setups all the time. It gives an opportunity to really talk about what I need from this relationship. And again, in therapy, if somebody hasn't had their needs met in the past, we will then be deep diving into, let's look at what that was like not to be heard, and what would it be like now to be heard within this relationship. So an MOT to communicate this to the relationship. And looking at who in the relationship feels like they're holding that space more responsibility than the other person. Does sometimes the relationship feel distant or overwhelming? So giving space for this to take place is vital, like a heartbeat. I can't tell you how important that is for me, that we get couples to make sure that they spend time together. So couples need to take a stock of their relationship. This can be from chores, responsibilities, commitment, intimacy, sex, and the practicalities that make up the relationship. So my recommendation is spending at least 6 hours a month in deep dive conversations, and you're setting them up. So some of my clients say, well, this is quite contrived. It feels like we've got to sit down. Absolutely, you've got to sit down. There's things that are not being said that need to be said. And there's things that are being said that can be too harsh, that we're holding, swallowing down, and they become resentment. So the concept is being able to alleviate the conflict and the communication deficit within the relationship by actually putting out there, we need to talk to each other at certain times. And then we need date night. I've gone right off the idea of calling it date night, time together, whatever that might look like. There's an expectation with date night for me. And I think to myself, I'm not sure I want to say that to my couples anymore, especially if you've got a couple who are really not that intimate at the moment, and we're saying have a date night. So it's really important to think about that. So what I want to do is discuss, we get there in a minute, discuss differentiation and understanding the concept of how we can help conflict and communication. Okay, so OVI is other validated intimacy, and we live in a world of wanting to be validated by people. Okay, I'm not generalized, not everybody, but when we think about, you know, our hair and our makeup and our clothes and our weight and everything, we're looking for that OVI, other validated intimacy. Tell me something about myself that makes me feel good. I want to feel safe and secure. So when we think about that, this concept is, if it's needed constantly within the relationship, then we have a low differentiation. Okay, so you've got one person who is acknowledging that they're finding their need to be validated all the time is actually starting to overwhelm, and they're not speaking up because actually they come from a family of origin that didn't speak up. They just put up and shut up. So this low differentiation is being able to come together and be able to say, right, okay, let's see the dynamic and how this is working. So let's look at other validated intimacy. So people usually think of intimacy as one person disclosing something and the other person accepts it and validates it. And this is a kind of intimacy, but it's not the main intimacy or the main process that we want couples to think about. I say something, you say something, I say something, you say something. Okay. But it is a kind of intimacy. So mistaking OVI as the whole intimacy, closeness and connection can be problematic for the clients or the couples. So thinking about conflict and communication, I'm talking tonight about gridlock. When we have couples who are sitting in this place of low differentiation, so there's not decisions being made, there's some apathy or ambivalence within the relationship. No one can actually hold on to their own sense of self without the other person being able to say, you're all right, you can do it. And I know that sounds like we are there to support our partners, but it depends on what level that is. If you have somebody saying to you all the time, again and again, the same premise as yesterday or the day before or the day before, there's a massive insecurity there. And when you think about that as the concept of being in a couple relationship, you've got one person saying, I can be okay if you're okay, which is a massive pressure for the person to hold. So their emotional reaction affects another person. Okay, not that anything's really going on, it's just that you need to be happy, you need to be okay, you need to keep me safe for me to then be okay. So this low differentiation has a real gridlock process to it, because eventually one of the people won't cope. So one will either go downhill because they've got low differentiation and they can't work out why this other person is developing and changing. And it is sort of like that cage process. One person is trying to emerge and the other person is trying to keep them where they are. When we look at self-validated intimacy, so SVI, okay, and this sometimes doesn't feel like intimacy when you sort of look at it as it is. because it does have the capacity to make you feel safe, accepted, and understood. Unfortunately, the self-disclosures that we do within a partnership can be quite risky. And if we then share something with our partner, they can challenge that sense of self if they've got a differentiated process, or the self-development of them is a little bit more progressive or more known. Okay. So think about a situation that you have mentioned that you have mentioned to your partner, okay, and you wanted it noticed, and feel the upset and recognize that. So if you think about, if you're somebody who sits in that low differentiation and you're looking for validation all the time and you're seeking it out, whether that's manipulatively, subconsciously, and the other person doesn't react to it, what we're looking for is people to regulate themselves. If we can't regulate ourselves, we are always looking outside of ourselves to be able to be safe, be secure. You are the person that makes me okay. So what we're doing with clients is getting them to actually sit as an I, okay, choosing to be a we. And this self-discovery, this journey that we go on as an I. So as a child, you were very much an I, okay, and then you had siblings and you became a we. There's different moments in life throughout life, but when we're a couple, the dimensions of we and I, they phase in and out. So if you think about the relationship when you first got together, okay, it was like a bubble. You could only see each other. It was loved upstage. It was amazing. You know, you were late for work, knickers on backwards. It was fantastic, but you only could see each other. Okay, then naturally the relationship pulls away from each other because you're actually seeing yourself. Do I want this? Is this what I want? So we start exploring. We're not actually moving away from the partnership, but it feels like it. We're just standing back a minute and going, I'm an I. What will I be able to give to this relationship? And what will I be able to receive from the relationship? Okay. So in that context, what we're thinking about is, how can I hold my sense of self as an I whilst being with this other person? And that's really, really important. So before you met this person, or whatever person it was before that, did you think about what you let go of? So what were your individual aspirations in the very beginning? You know, were you a traveler? Were you somebody that wanted adventure and going abroad? Were you a rugby player, or were you a athlete? Were you a I don't know, all the things that you had a list of: career, family, travel, sabbatical to find out more spiritual, religious things, whatever it might be. What did you do when you got with this person, and what did you let go of? What process of OVI, other validated intimacy, took over, and you lost that sense of self-validated intimacy? I'm allowed to be me while I'm with you, but can you tolerate that? Okay. So we don't want our partner to be dependent on us, okay? We sort of can look at that therapy as we're not going to rescue anyone. But when we've got somebody that comes to therapy, and the low differentiated person struggles in therapy because they don't want things to change, that's very fearful for them. But we've got somebody that actually really takes up the therapy and starts looking at themselves and going, I'm going to try that. I'm going to manifest that. I'm going to put that in place. The other person will start to be very, very fearful that actually the shift is too much for them. So if you look at that for a minute, the shift, first of all, was, I need you to be what I need you to be for me to be okay. When this person starts to develop, this person then goes into crisis, as in I feel like this is too much for me. So then we are trying to balance that out and say, right, okay, humans need to have the I process while we're in a relationship. Okay, so if you are not dependent on your partner's reaction, telling the truth about yourself is very self-confirming and increases your sense of who you really are. So for me, when I think about that, myself as an individual, but working with couples, it's authenticity. If we can stay authentic to ourselves, we're more likely to be able to come differentiated. So sit in that space of yourself and go, this boundary I'm going to hold tight. I'm not going to actually do that anymore. But when we start learning the self-development and the differentiation, it can come across quite aggressive. It's a bit like when somebody says, I'm trying to be assertive instead of angry, they still shout. And people go, God, you're being really funny. Why are you doing? Well, I'm trying to get my point across, but I'm trying to be assertive. It always starts off quite loud because we're trying to hold that stance. Differentiation is about being able to say, that doesn't work for me, and being okay with it, and then checking in with the other person. What's that like for you? Where have you gone? Because I've actually held that boundary for myself. So when we talk about differentiation, it's about that maturing and growing within the relationship. With differentiation, you have more of a intimacy connection, and intimacy is the powerful bit where you can actually deep dive talk, have better sexual relationships, and really know each other. And it gives you an idea of if we're not differentiated, we are sort of walking in the dark with each other. Okay, and the gridlock starts when we actually can't agree on anything. The arguing is paramount. We go round and round and round in circles. So if you think for a minute of Harville Hendricks, he talks about the ideal, which I've talked about, the loved up stage, but he also talks about the ordeal, which is the power struggle. So clients are in this power struggle, and if they are low differentiated, they will stay in that power struggle because the change can't happen because somebody's too fearful of it. And being differentiated is actually being able to sit in your own empowerment and being able to say, that suits me, that doesn't suit me. It's not actually taking the other person down. It's saying, this is where I am as a human being, as a predominantly an I first, choosing to be with you and you getting to know me, of where my boundaries are, what I would accept, and how that sits within the relationship. Because what we don't want within the relationship is fear. If you think about the loved up stage, okay, as that differentiating part starts, the I starts to happen here. Nobody's phoned me. I haven't got a text. It's fear that starts. I would have thought they'd have phoned by now. There's a narrative that goes on. It's fear. Okay. Then suddenly the relationship starts up again. Okay. That gap was meant to go from limerence to love, or choosing that person. And that's really important. So differentiation is about your level of personal development. So when I talk to couples coming into, or individuals coming in here, and they say, I'm really nervous, I say, what would it be like to think about this as self-development? Actually have a learning process that you're going to learn so much more about you. You're going to be able to take this away and use it in all the things that you do, whether that's work, colleagues, friendships, relationships, and with children. So think about for a minute when you weren't in a relationship, okay? What were your aspirations? Write them down. What did you want to do when you weren't in a relationship? What were the dreams that you had, the fantasies that you had? And it doesn't matter whether they were going to come true as an individual, as an I. The fact is that they are still inside you somewhere. And it's not that your partner's saying you can't go because you're not parents to each other. It's actually negotiating. This is what I want to do in the lifetime that I have. How can you support me? Now, if we've got differentiated people, they will go off in different directions. Know people that go on different holidays together, different activities separately, and then they come back and then they have a holiday together to discuss all the things that they've actually done separately. Separateness encourages and increases closeness. If we've got this with the gaps, we then have a relationship like this. If we have that with no gaps, we've got fusion, enmeshment. We can't breathe, we can't move. No one is controlling anyone. We're hoping we want the partnership to be in a place of give to give. And I believe that actually if you have a relationship that's the relationship that you want to be in, then the giving is reciprocal. It will come back to you. So it's your ability to function as an individual whilst also being in a relationship and with others. Okay. The more you find it difficult to actually have self-development. So when we look at safety, we're going to look at spontaneity, we're going to look at significance, we're going to look at love and connection. We're going to look at growth and contribution. When we look at all those things, what we're doing is we're trying to avoid gridlock. Okay. And we have a pandemic of people leaving the wrong people because they get to gridlock, nothing's working. Okay. And it's not because it couldn't work. It's just they haven't got the roadmap to help them work it out. So all the things I've just listed are the relationship creed, okay? And these are really, really important because you need a roadmap to work out what's going wrong. And if you have the opportunity to differentiate from the other person, I'm me, you're you, and we are able to sit in a place right in the middle as a we. But I've still got to be able to sit in that place of just me. So what we've got then is gridlock, which is where we look at the emotional gridlock. Okay, so it's very painful. It feels like we're never going to get to know each other again, and it's likely going to end in divorce. So what we want to do is actually think about how can we think about resolving that gridlock. And if we talk about attachment styles, and obviously I'm throwing stuff out here at the moment, if you know your attachment style, then when we talk about knowing how I react, so if I'm anxiously attached, and I know that, okay, so then there would be part of my work as self-development to restrict myself, teach myself to be a little less needy, more regulated, then I become more differentiated. So if we put attachment and differentiated together, we can actually have a roadmap to go, right, okay, this is how I know I am. Okay, so if we have an ambivalent attachment, we can be in the relationship sometimes and feel like we're not in a relationship other time. Not going anywhere, it just feels there's a distance. So if we can work that out, we can then work out how we can progress onto differentiation and put the two together. So differentiation can control the ebb and flow of sex, desire, intimacy, and conflict in the course of the relationship. Differentiation is the ability to develop and balance two fundamental human needs, like I've just said, the attachment and self-regulation. So a lot of my work is stabilization, being able to sit with a client and go, right, okay, what is coming up for you? You know, it might be a trigger, it might be a memory, it might be a flashback, it might be something that's going on with them that they can't regulate. And what we need to do is find the narrative of that. Actually say, right, okay, let's find out the story of that. Okay, these might be individual sessions with couples, a couple each, so that we can work out where they are. But stabilizing them is meaning that actually, if you can regulate, you can self-direct. If you can't regulate, you have no direction to go in. You're just panicking because you want the other person to stop changing. You want them to stay the same. So differentiation is entirely different and leads to different ways of thinking and behaving and new solutions. So when we work out what differentiation looks like, and I remember hearing this word for the very first time when I was studying, and I couldn't get the concept of it. I was thinking, how do you become you and not affect other people? You can't. There will be an affect for somebody else if you're in a partnership, because they will see the growth, they will see the difference, they will see the no's, they will see I don't agree. So it's very difficult not to have an affect on your partnership if you're self-developing. And what you want them to do is actually do the same. And if you keep on with that process of not validating anymore, so we talk about OVI, okay, other validating to me. When you've said to your partner, I've told you that you look good in that dress. I've said it 3 times. You might even make a contract. I'm saying it 3 times for the next month. I'm saying it 2 times. I'm saying, well, I'm not saying it anymore. I'm going to say you look beautiful. I don't get a chance to say how lovely you look because you're always saying, do I look all right? Or do you think it'll be okay? And that, you know, and there's an anxiety to it that is perpetuating the relationship to drift apart. And what we want is actually self-validated. Come downstairs and say to yourself, God, I look hot tonight. Or, you know, your partner says, oh, you know, I've got aftershave on. God, I smell good. Whatever it might be, we've got to self-validate. We must stop looking for outside influences to make us feel better because they let us down. When we've got such high expectations of somebody's going to validate us, they don't. And then we go flat. The more that happens to us, the lower the differentiation go, and the harder it is to pull ourselves back up again. It's possible, but if you keep hearing that nobody validates me, or I thought someone would have said something, then they will sit in a place of really low differentiation. So we've got to try and help couples. One, it always seems, there's one going, I get this, I'm going to read more, I'm going to do more. Then we've got the other one sitting in this really fearful place. And there's so much empathy that I believe that goes with differentiation, being able to see where both of them are going, how we can support them through that difference, because gridlock ends up with them not being together. They cannot see a way out. We just keep going into the power struggle. Harville Hendrix, the power struggle. And what we're trying to do is come out of that and go into the real deal and stay there. Then we have another thing that happens. I don't know, the car gets dinked or something happens and you go back into the power struggle. I thought you'd drive better than that, blah, 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 whatever it might be. Then you come back out of it. What couples are doing, they're staying in it and they can't find a way out of it. And that's why they're thinking this relationship is doomed. We need to not be in it anymore. So if we can hold ourselves accountable for ourselves, and then we have the opportunity to go, I'm okay, but I want to be with you as a we, and I'd like you to be okay with you as an I. So two I's choosing to be a we. And this we is above the two I's in a lovely star, because what it does is when you are an I, the we gets bigger in the middle, because there is no other way to actually advocate intimacy when you both are searching for things that feel great. I've done this, I want to come and share it with you. This happened to me today. There's more closeness, there's more conversation. If you are together all the time, it doesn't work. There's nothing to bring back to the relationship. Or can I just say, when I say it doesn't work, you give yourself over to it, you accept it. And that's what life are you living? We need to thrive in a relationship, not just strive. We need to really think about where we are in the relationship. And that's why these MOTs are really, really important. And it's not, you don't have to do that with a therapist. It'd be great if you do. When I get people coming here saying we just need an overhaul, we need an intensive, we've lost our way, it's really, really important to think about what the MOT needs to look like. And honesty. This is what I'm doing now, I don't like. The responsibilities that I'm holding, I'm not happy with. I want it to change. Then we're looking at, actually, if we look at the sex stuff, I'm not having the sex that I want. That's why we're not having sex. So we need to look at the repertoire of absolutely everything, look at them as holistically so that we can change things around. Okay. So the four aspects of differentiation, if you want to hold on to yourself, is maintaining a clear sense of yourself in close proximity to your partner. So when we start to feel that feeling of or doing that differentiation, I can feel this growth in me that I want to learn more about myself, develop myself more. We need to not come away from the relationship. A lot of people say, right, I need to split up, I need to come away, I need to find myself. We can actually do it at the same time, but we need support. It's not that the other person has to forget about themselves completely, but we're going, while you do that, I'm supporting you. While you're doing that, I'm going to see what I can do for myself, so that you've got some sort of equality going on in the relationship, that you're both actually negotiating the same sort of roadmap. If one person says, I'm going to stay as I am, the other person says, I'm growing, they will grow, and then they won't be able to hold that space for the other person anymore. And that person will feel bereft. We need regulating your own anxiety, so self-soothing. So this is a really interesting one, because a lot of people don't know how to self-soothe. If they never had a nurturing parent, somebody that cared when they cried or fell over or got some little piece of cream and a plaster, whatever it might be, they wouldn't know how to do that. So we need to teach ourselves, we need to self-soothe as therapists, and also our clients. What would that look like for them? And could they accept it if there was kindness around self-soothing? What would that feel like to them? If they're not used to it, it would feel very, very maybe awkward or out of touch from them. So we need to really think about how we're going to self-soothe. Then this is my favorite one, being non-reactive to your partner's anxiety, or non-reactive to your partner's reactivity. Okay. So in a relationship, it's not a CV and a job. Okay. even though we put a lot of effort into jobs, okay, deadlines and pleasing bosses and everything, I wish we would do a little bit more in relationships when we think about all the stuff that we put in jobs. But when we think about non-reactive to our partner's reactivity, there's something about we seem to go to, you're not all right, so I better not be. And that, so you've had a bad day, so I won't share my fantastic day. And we need to stop that. What we need to do is actually think about accepting that I've had a fun day, but listening to the partner who hasn't. And then when they have got to the place of regulation, they can hopefully say, or you'll say, do you want to hear about my day? And it's okay to say, I've had a really lovely day. What we're doing is we're minimizing ourselves. So there's maximizing and minimizing going on. And I'm sure from both partners. And we don't want to do that, because if you do it once, you'll do it twice. And we need to stop doing that. We need to say to our partners, you tell me about your day and then I'll tell you about mine. What we do in an argument is we go up and we're agreeing with whatever the person's saying or who they're talking about. And what happens at the very end is when you're agreeing, okay, there's no space for the other person to have the feeling either side of it, good or bad. What they do is they project it onto you. Well, I can't believe you're saying that about my boss. He's actually been good to us. He let us have a 2 weeks extra holiday. Actually, you're really annoying me that you're actually agreeing with me that he's this, that, and the other. You end up round with each other because there's nowhere else to go with it. The boss isn't there that you're really annoyed about. So we need to not react to somebody else's reactivity. And then tolerating discomfort for growth. Okay, David Schnartz talks about tolerating discomfort. So sitting in that place of not going over the pain barrier or around the pain barrier, we're going through it. That work is by Christine Dunkley, not David Schnartz, but David Schnartz talks about tolerating discomfort for growth. If you can sit and tolerate discomfort in an argument, in a discussion, in an agreement, you're more likely to actually dilute it and be able to sit with it and then be able to come back and go, right, okay, that felt horrible. However, this is what I think. So that's really, really important. That's those two end ones for me is non-reactivity and tolerated. So when you think about that for a minute, to differentiate would be to avoid. Okay, to differentiate means change. So a lot of people wouldn't want to go there. They would go, right, okay, this is just too hard. I can't seem to find my space within the relationship, so I'd give myself over to it again. It's really worth holding on to that space and not letting it go, allowing yourself to go, right, okay, I've always been an I. The concept of us is I, okay? We choose to be in a relationship. So when we've got low differentiation, this leads to gridlock, and going through the gridlock increases your differentiation. So if you can go through that, so somebody with low differentiation, tolerating the discomfort, they will gain that perspective of actually, I have the right to say this. So not in an aggressive way, just this is my opinion. This differentiation is more than an opinion. It's actually a way of life. It's the authentic you that comes through. Okay, the boundaried you that comes through. And what we don't want to do is get fused. And this is what couples are actually, what's happening to them. They get in such a gridlock that they get fused and they feel that there's no way out. Nobody's doing, hang on a minute, this seems to be going around in circles. Hang on a minute, we can't win-win. Otherwise, we're going to actually go nowhere at all. So we're holding that stance for each other for whatever reason that might be. And we're not growing. We're just going, we're doing this and nothing else. So in low differentiated couples where attachment is included, which I've talked about, is fear of abandonment more than anything, is an overriding factor, okay? So in a partnership, we want freedom, options, goals, because the fear of the other person's fears, anxieties, and emotional eruptions actually make us overwhelmed. We can't hold that other person while they're going through that. We want to find that freedom, that options, that place of I'm holding me, you're holding you, and then we together will work out what we need from each other. But if we're holding somebody else's, we're responsible for them, okay, they have lack of self-regulation. And when this happens, the balance you need between attachment and self-direction is lost. So that's why they get into that real power struggle of we're completely lost. And sometimes we hear couples say, and broken. We are absolutely, everything has disappeared. Okay, I'm a great believer. I see so many couples, and I'm going to do a blog on, we build our empire, all the things, whatever that might be. It might be businesses, it might be houses, it might be cars. It doesn't matter what it is. You've done that together through the strife and the worry and the money and the children and that you've done it together. You get to the top and you do that, you fall apart. And it's so sad. You've got that place where you've actually nurtured and put love and affection into it, and then it just falls apart. And houses, jobs, and cars just become that. They're just objects because there isn't a unit, there isn't that love between both of you anymore. And that's why I think couples are leaving each other, because that differentiated place is not in place enough. And they get into this gridlock place where they can't communicate that well. They think they are because they're doing practicalities. They're talking all the time about the kids and the jobs and the dishwasher and everything. They think they go, well, we talk really well. They don't talk about the fundamental deep diving stuff that we need to talk about in a relationship. Like, how did you think this would be for you? Is this what you thought we would look like 5 years later, 10 years later? We need to be doing MOTs just to see whether we are on the right track with each other. Just going to have a look at the time. Oh, good. Okay. So I talked to you a little bit just a minute ago about I can only be okay if you're okay, which makes me feel okay. Dependent on the other to regulate themselves for the safety of the one. So it's not a partnership when one person is saying, you need to be something for me so I can be okay. So to have somebody saying that, they are literally thinking I, okay, as in the one needs to keep safe. They're not thinking outside the box about the other person feeling safe. And my sort of like puppet show, I guess, is when I'm talking to couples like that, the person who's low differentiated is sort of doing this. Okay, but the person who's hearing it is doing that. So it's like, I need you to be okay for me to be, I need you to be okay for me. And eventually they fall over. Okay, and we're not talking about falling over, we're talking about mental health issues. Okay, I see people in here who are rich, who are shaking, going, I can't hold this person anymore. I don't know what they want from me. It becomes overwhelming. And what we've got to do is actually separate that out. Be able to say to the person who's really fearful, I can't be okay if they're not okay. They need to not collapse. And what we're saying is actually they're collapsing because you can't regulate. Okay, and this is all coming from a place of past. And I'm not blaming parents, I never do. What parents knew, they gave us, and what their parents knew, they gave them. It's not about that. It's about how we navigated ourselves to come out of that and heal ourselves. The ruptures that we had from 0 to 3, 3 to 18 months is what they were. That can't be changed now. But how are we regulating ourselves in a relationship now? That's what's important. How are we regulating ourselves? No one's rescuing us, and don't ask anybody to. Allow yourself to be this person that says, I know me, I know more of me now, and I can sit in that place. I don't need to be hanging on to this other person. Okay. So when one partner starts to grow, the option for the other often decreases. So when one person is emotionally fused, the couple starts to differentiate, and the other often complains of feeling controlled. People who complain of being controlled are often very controlling. Emotional fusion doesn't permit partners to function independently without impacting each other. That's why when one partner starts to grow, the option of the other partner is to go down. And what they're seeking is for the other partner to actually pick them back up again. But that's not going to happen because the growth within therapy can be quite huge. You see each week that this person's growing, and you can see the other person diminishing in front of you. And that would be when I would think about, or before that, I would be thinking about this person needs individual therapy, which they will be resistant to. For many reasons. So that's why when one partner starts to grow, the option is that the other partner might go down. If the growth continues, then the option of both partners will increase. So if that person can say, I'm still here and I'm feeling safe enough to say how I feel, I'm wondering whether you can join me, and what would that feel like? And in individual therapy for that person would be really useful to say, what would you like to say if you could? To practice it in personal therapy, to come back to couple therapy and go, I'd like to say to you that when we spoke the other night, it felt really warm but scary. So there's some real growth going on there. There's some real moments of intimacy coming back in through the development of being able to say, you can be you and I can be me. Okay. Remember that gridlock in any way, shape, or form when they go into the power struggle kills desire and passion. Okay, we need to remember that actually, if we're always asking for validation, we sit in an anxious place. When we sit in an anxious place, we can get sexual boredom. We're not promoting it, we're not talking about it, we are consumed with how safe we can feel all the time. And it is consuming, not just for the partner who wants to feel safe, but the partner that's actually trying to facilitate that. It's absolutely exhausting. So we need to experiment with different ways of working. So when the gridlock's there, we've got to really put in different elements of how to communicate with each other. And communication is listening, and it's a skill. Being able to listen to somebody fully without interruptions and asking Socratic questions to open it up again if you don't understand what was said. Okay, so I believe that the messenger, excuse me, the messenger is the person that needs to make sure that the message is clear enough. However, if it isn't, because that person has sat in a low differentiated place and will have some reservations of sharing too much, then we need the other partner to really think about questions that are not yes/no questions. So Socratic questions are really opening up the arena of the other person being able to join them in that place of safety, instead of them sitting there going, I better not say that because it'll be a risk. I better not say that because actually it might lead to them abandoning me or not being with me. And it's really interesting because in therapy, I can hear the partner go, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I want to work this out. And I believe that when they say that, I believe that. And I want the partner to believe that. I want them to say, I can hear it. Might not believe it yet, but I can hear it. So listening skills are really, really important. We do so much pseudo listening in the world. You know, sometimes I can have my dog barking, I've got the radio on, and I've got the telly on at the same time. And yeah, so and somebody might speak to me and I've got these different audios going on that I would probably hear the last 2 or 3 things that the person said. And as humans, we try and grab hold of them and try and make sense of what that person said so they don't have to say it again. Don't do that. Say, turn off, turn off, turn off. Right, okay, I'm listening. What is it that you want to speak to me about? So pseudo listening is very common, and we do it because we are so full. You think about, you know, children and jobs and phones and FOMO and all these different things that are going on around us. We will half listen to conversations. The intimacy comes, whether it's colleagues or friendships or partnerships, there is intimacy all around us. Okay, I'm not talking about sex, I'm talking about intimacy. How do we connect to other people? And this is part of the personal development process. So this can be hard to tolerate when you think about how we're going to experiment with different levels of differentiation, how the self-development touches base with both partners and how they can hold that space instead of keep going back to default place, as in, I don't feel safe, I need you to be okay for me to be okay. And what we've got to do is actually tolerate, again, the discomfort, which is very, very difficult. We've got to handle the anxiety, and I want to be able to challenge the identity of the person that you've become. So a lot of people say, I don't actually know who I've become in this relationship. I've lost who I am. I feel like I've given myself over. I don't do anything. I'm just there. So they've lost their identity, and we need to look at value systems. We need to look at where they've come from. We need to actually do sort of like a genealogram to find out, actually touch base with that process with them. And many couples divorce and remain dissatisfied in relationships, in other relationships after that, because of the gridlock. They haven't worked out why the gridlock happened, and it happens again and again and again. And they come back and go to me, I think I should have stayed in the first relationship because I'm on my 3rd relationship now and I'm back where I was before. And this is why I know the divorce is a no fault divorce, which is great, but divorce is very easy to have. The hurt is still the same, the abandonment's still the same, but it's very easy to get. And I think we've got a pandemic of people just going, this don't work, I'm moving on. And actually, it could work. If we could slow this down, we could actually see that the couple could come back together. So I wrote they have the realization that they have the potential to expand their capacity to desire, passion, and love. And I really believe that if you can get couples into therapy and they're talking to you about the gridlock, the power struggle, we never come out of it. And the interesting thing about the power struggle, it sounds different. It's a different story, but it's the same meaning: disrespect, not feeling safe, no spontaneity, not being able to hold that space for each other, love and connection for each other. And the key for differentiation is separateness. Just think about that for a minute. To be separate, to choose to come close. This is so powerful. When I sit here and say these words, I can feel that in my body. To be close to you, I need to be me. And if I can be me, I can get so close to you. So there's no prison, there's no control, there's no power dynamic. How wonderful would that be if we could teach the couples to go, I'm going to be me and be okay with that. You're going to be you and be okay with that. How can we navigate a really good roadmap for each other that actually takes in consideration our dreams, aspirations, fantasies, adventure whilst being together? It's such a powerful concept. How are we doing for time? Yeah, 10 minutes. I really hope that that has enlightened you into differentiation. It's very powerful. I talk all the time about being the I first and choosing to be a we. But differentiation is very powerful within a therapy session. One person will get it, the other person will trail behind slightly, and that's okay. We need to hold them both, but in different ways. For the next 10 minutes, I just want to briefly talk about the things that are happening with LPS psychotherapies and Fee and myself. We're in the middle of running the playbook, and we've got 2 more months left. And I think the word really is phenomenal. The group is incredible. They have gelled in a way that I've never seen before so quickly. And the interaction and the emotional context for them all has been just fantastic. The teaching is getting across, and they are doing some wonderful work in the triad. So if you're interested in the playbook, then please come and put yourself. We're doing it again in September. Yeah, it's just been life-changing for me to share it again. And I want to continue to do that. And huge, massive thank you to the people that are on it already and loving every minute of it. We've got a WhatsApp group, and the chat is fantastic. We've also got a membership. So the membership is about the drop-in sessions on the second Tuesday in the morning and the fourth Thursday in the evening. It's just a drop-in supervision. There's lots of people on it, and it just gives you that opportunity to drop in and have some bit more supervision. And it's subscription. So come and check it out. We're also doing little mini trainings with it, which we send out to you. We've also got guest speakers very shortly as well. Going to sort of share some couple stuff with you, so that it gives you the opportunity to learn so much more with what you're doing. So yeah, and we need more couple therapists for sure. We need robust therapists that can sit with a couple and accept challenge and be directive and hold that space for them. Because we get premarital, we get some people that are coming in that's just started a relationship 6 months, but predominantly a lot of it is crisis. And that's where we need to hold our space for that client. We need that leadership role, being able to say, okay, this is what was going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you when I want you to do it and how we're going to do it. And that's the aspect of absolute, from communication to love languages. It's actually set out in a program orientated way. So not only does the therapist have an opportunity to really understand where they are in the process of all the time that they're seeing them, but it also gives the couple the roadmap that they definitely need. So I'm done. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody on the Facebook page. Thank you to the two people on here. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to next month. I don't know what that's going to be yet. And I hope this has been really helpful. Good night and have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Thank you. Get the lovely messages at the end. It's so sweet. I've got a little pink heart, which is one of my favorite things. Thank you. That's so lovely. Oh, and a red heart. Thank you so much. It's much appreciated. And the more information we can get out there, the better. All right, guys, take care. I'll speak to you soon.